You know that feeling, right? You try to run an errand on a Sunday morning, just a quick trip, and bam, the store you need is closed. It feels kind of weird in our 24/7 world. Well, what if I told you that locked door has a hidden price tag, a cost we're all paying? And in this explainer, we're going to find out exactly what it is.
I mean, it's a totally fair question. We live in an age of one-click ordering and same-day delivery, so why does walking into a physical store sometimes feel like a trip back in time? Well, it turns out this isn't about some store manager's decision. It's about these really old laws that, believe it or not, are still sparking some major debates today.
So, the reason behind all this? Something called blue laws. Basically, they're regulations that restrict or even ban certain things, like shopping on Sundays. They have these deep, historical, and often religious roots, all designed to encourage a day of rest. Nowadays, the argument for keeping them is usually more about, protecting workers and giving families a day off together.
And when I say these laws are old, I mean really old. Get this. The first one we know about goes all the way back to AD 321, from the Roman Emperor Constantine. But here's the crazy part. It's not just ancient history. While the UK loosened its rules back in the 90s, Poland just brought in one of Europe's strictest bans in 2018. So yeah, this debate is definitely not over.
Okay, so we know people are still arguing about it. But how do you actually measure the cost of these laws? I mean, how do you put a number on inconvenience? It's tricky. Well, recently, researchers got a huge break. They found the perfect natural experiment in, of all places, North Dakota. So, up until just a few years ago, North Dakota had this super strict blue law. We're talking a total ban on most big retail stores, think Walmart, from midnight until noon every single Sunday. Now, grocery stores and drugstores, they got a pass. But then, on August 1st, 2019, everything changed. The ban was repealed. And this created the perfect setup for a study, because while North Dakota changed its rules, its neighbors, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Montana, didn't. This gave researchers a test group, which was North Dakota, and a control group, the states next door. It's a really smart way to isolate the true effect of just the law changing, without getting confused by other stuff like holidays or bad weather. So how'd they track what happened? This is the really cool part. They used anonymized GPS data from millions of mobile phones. This gave them this incredibly precise hour-by-hour picture of who was going to which stores and when. It was like having a front row seat to see the impact of the law change in almost real time. All right, so they had the perfect setup, they had the high-tech data. What did they actually find? Let's follow the shoppers and see how this one little change completely reshaped weekend routines across the entire state. And the impact was, wow, just immediate and dramatic. Before the repeal, Sunday morning visits to Walmart in North Dakota were practically zero, a ghost town. The very day the law changed, boom, visits shot straight up, instantly matching the shopping patterns in the neighboring states. This was the smoking gun. It proved this wasn't just some dusty old rule on the books. It was actively changing how people lived, week in and week out. Okay, so a ton of people started shopping on Sunday mornings. But the big question is, where did they all come from? Were people just buying more stuff overall? Or was something else going on? And what the data showed was fascinating. It wasn't about spending more money. It was all about substitution. Researchers found 3 big shifts. First, people moved their shopping across time. The trips that used to happen on Sunday afternoon just moved to Sunday morning. Simple enough. Second, they shifted store types. Instead of going to the grocery store, which was their only option before noon, they switched to Walmart once it opened. And third, and this one is pretty wild, they shifted across state lines. People living near the Minnesota border simply stopped driving across it to do their Sunday morning shopping.
All right, so people change their behavior when a law changes. That makes sense. But how do you measure the cost of all that inconvenience? Researchers found this amazing way to boil it all down to a single, powerful number. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds pretty subjective, right? How do you put a price tag on having to shop at a different time, or at a store you like less, or driving to a whole other state? Well, the answer lies in something we can all understand: distance. What they did was build this model of consumer choice that looked at our preferences for when we shop, where we shop, and how far we're willing to travel. By seeing how people made these trade-offs in the real world, they could translate all those little inconveniences into an equivalent travel cost. So, after all that calculation,
what was the real cost of this law? The researchers figured out that the total inconvenience of the ban was equivalent to making every single shopper travel an extra 1.4 miles.
Let that sink in for a second. The law had the exact same negative effect on people's lives as if someone physically picked up every Walmart in the state and moved it nearly a mile and a half farther away from every single customer. When you multiply that by every trip, every week, for every family, it becomes a massive hidden tax paid in time and gas.
So now that we can actually see this cost, now that we can put a number on it, we can go back to that bigger policy debate with a much clearer eye. We can ask the real question: what are we trading for this inconvenience? On one side, you have the supporters who argue these laws preserve a shared day of rest, protect small businesses from big box competition, and give workers a guaranteed day off. But on the other side, as this research clearly shows, there are real, measurable costs: consumer inconvenience, lost time for busy families, and even pushing local dollars across state lines. For centuries, the cost of these laws was invisible. It was just the way things were. But now we know it has a price tag, measured in miles on our odometers and minutes stolen from our weekends. And it forces us to ask a tough question. If we decide we want to preserve a shared day of rest, is a hidden tax on everyone's time and travel the right way to pay for it? It's something to think about the next time you find that door locked on a Sunday morning.